The first step was covering a plastic form with paper mache. And most of us have that done already. When you were finished with that, you wanted to take the form off and then set that aside because that does not stay inside your mask. And then the next step was to put your mask on the board, to glue it down, and then do 2 extra layers of paper mache all the way around. Now we have our face stuck on there and it's dry. Next we want to start adding 3-dimensional things to our background. Originally, when you use this plastic form, this is called an armature. It's the inside structure of whatever shape you're making. But for the next part, you have to make your own armature out of clay. So what I've done here is I've made a few to start with, but I'm going to show you how I did this. I'm going to put some hair onto my face, or around my head. I'm going to start with a chunk of clay. That might be a little too big. I'm going to do this in sections. You're not going to do one massive piece of hair. So maybe I want to have like my bangs coming across my forehead. Now you don't need a huge thick chunk. I'm going to push this in a little bit to make it a little more hollow, but I want it to pop up. So I'm looking at kind of making a shape for my bangs, and then I will kind of set that on there to see how it looks. Well, I can adjust that a little bit. I'll have it come down a little bit more. Okay, and it's kind of hollow on the inside, and that's just fine. Once I get this shape done, I'll kind of look at how do I want the rest of my hair to go, and I've already kind of played with a couple lumps of clay, put them together. Maybe I'll have this one on the side, and then that one would kind of overlap. These are still going to be 2 separate pieces. It doesn't have to be perfect at this point. It has to be the right size, and then maybe I want to add a couple of pieces of hair that come off 3-dimensionally to my piece. So I have some pieces sticking out like that. After you get your separate pieces done, got the left one too, then I'm going to wrap each piece in plastic wrap. When you do that, you want to make sure that the plastic wrap is nice and tight to the form. So you want to really smooth it on there, and on the back side too. And you want 1 layer. If you've got a bunch of extra, I'm going to cut that off. Okay, so I've kind of smoothed all the way around. And then you can kind of play with the texture a little bit too. You can do a little more smoothing if you want. And that is an armature, just like my plastic face, but now I'm going to wrap the armature all by itself. So I've got the side of my hair here. Make sure your hands are clean. For time's sake, mine are a little bit dirty, but you'll want to wash your hands before you put them in the goop. And then I'm going to start by wrapping around my form, right around the plastic wrap, with my strips. You want to make sure that they're not too big. I could probably use even smaller ones here. And then make sure that you're using really little ones around these details. You're going to do about up to 3 layers. And then you want to let this dry overnight. The clay is not going to stay in here forever. After it has a couple layers and it's dry, we're going to cut a slit inside or along the paper and pull out all the clay and give it a few more layers so it's strong. The clay is just to hold our form initially.